Howdy folks, I hope everyone is doing well today. And today we're taking a look at one of Brandon Herrera's recent videos. You guys know I like to give videos at least a couple of days to sit in the algorithm before I go and take a look at it and react to it. Just a polite thing to do, you know. And today we're taking a look at Brandon Herrera's recent video, GunTuber Arrested by the Feds. So yeah, let's get into it and see what he's got to inform us on.
Breaking news. The feds are coming after gun tubers.
Nani? You don't say.
Well, one gun tuber in particular. No, not that one. That was mostly the state of Georgia, and it was a whole thing. But
For those of you not familiar, that was FPS Russia. He's an old school gun tuber. He was actually on YouTube. Good Lord, I want to say it was at least a decade before Brandon came around. He kind of paved the way for a lot of gun tubers in YouTube, at least in my opinion. There were some other gun tubers at that point in time. I'm trying to think of a few. Hickok45, he's a pretty great gun tuber. Who else? Was it Military Arms Channel? And FPS Russia, they kind of pioneered the whole gun tubing space, honestly. But in terms of what happened with FPS Russia, why you don't see him doing YouTube anymore, is because he got into a little bit of trouble because of all the firearms that he owned and all the pot that he smoked, apparently. Now, I don't know the entire details of that whole story. I just know that you can't be doing marijuana when you own that many firearms. In fact, I think it's actually part of the questionnaire when you do the background check for it.
yes, the feds have raided, or at least arrested, one of the OG gun tubers, Dugan Ashley of Carnicon, on explosives charges. We're gonna get into exactly what those charges are, what he did, why it's likely bullshit, and a new update in this case that I don't see a lot of people covering. But first, for those of you who aren't really familiar with Dugan or Carnicon, let me fill you in. The YouTube channel Carnicon and the character Dugan Ashley first came to the GunTube scene around 2012. And
okay, this is actually news to me. Like, I do watch a lot of different, gun-centric content. You guys know, as someone who is fairly conservative, gun rights are very, very near and dear to my heart, and so I'm a big fan of guns. This guy I have not heard of. I haven't seen any of his content personally, but he seems like a pretty chill dude, and yeah, I'm going to reserve judgment until Brandon gives us some facts exactly about, is this, did he actually do something wrong? Was it a mistake? Was he trying to do something intentionally? Or is this just another example of the federal government being dicks? Honestly, I'm kind of conditioned to lean toward it's just Uncle Sam being an ass.
her content was way ahead of its time. I mean, some of it ages better than others, but the production value, the humor, the access to crazy weaponry from machine guns to explosives. Aside from FPS Russia, of course, nobody else was on this guy's level at the time. His blend of cool and exotic firearms and, satirical, off-the-wall humor was an inspiration to a lot of the guys in the gun tube space today. I can certainly say he probably shaped the way that I did a lot of my content, especially early on. But I mean, it was just downright funny. I mean, watch some of this shit.
If you experience mag lock during reloading, execute the following steps. Step 1. Never load your magazines incorrectly. Step 2. Upon identifying that you have a mag lock situation, place the weapon on the ground and assume a submissive posture. And hope that you're appealing enough to the enemy to avoid imminent death.
I mean, the man and, quick aside, I actually got to meet the guy 10 years ago at some machine.
That was a great skit, yeah. Maglock. Not really a thing that happens with AR pattern weapons, which I'm more familiar with. I don't own any AKs. I'm not actually familiar with, you know, whether or not maglock is actually a serious issue on AKs or not.
Gun shoot, which I won't lie, I was young. I probably fanboyed a little bit. But anyhow, he left the YouTube space around 2015 from what I could tell was a mixture of burnout and some deeper health issues. I believe he was diagnosed with MS, which, as I'm sure you can imagine, probably had some pretty significant changes in his life. He came back a few years later for things here and there, like promoting the Yankee Boogle and stuff like that. But he never really returned to that full, like, Carnicon style, or at least the regular content side of it. Which unfortunately brings us to recent news, which is the...
That's rough, man. That's... MS is... Yeah, that's really rough. Sympathies to him. But he said he left sometime around 2015, so that might explain why I haven't seen a lot of his content.
Entire reason we're making this video. His arrest and why he's currently sitting in jail. Which in this video I'm going to break down, and why he's...
I'm going to go ahead and read that, folks. A Saline County man has been arrested and charged in federal court for allegedly making explosives without a license and sharing step-by-step instructions to create them. I don't think Uncle Sam was being a dick on this one, if it's true.
Currently sitting in jail. Which in this video I'm going to break down, explain some of the deeper legal stuff, explain why a lot of it's bullshit, and then talk about what we can do to help. So if you stick with me past this quick ad, I'll break it all down. Now, if you're watching my channel, you probably have ways of dealing with people stealing your shit. But what about the people stealing your personal data? Data brokers are taking your information and selling it on the internet right now.
NordVPN?
These people are making billions of dollars taking and selling your personal information, destroying your privacy in the process. And most of them make absolutely zero effort to make sure that spammers, scammers, and stalkers don't purchase your information and data. Which is... it's not great. But luckily Aura's here to help. Aura goes out and finds where your information's being sold online and does all of the legwork to get it removed. And staying removed. They also do a bunch of things like monitoring to see if your information's out there on the dark web, real-time credit and banking alerts, their own VPN, and a host of other features. And right now you can try Aura for 14 days for free using the link in the description or going to aura.com/Brandon. In those 14 days, Aura will already get to work scrubbing your information off the internet, much to the chagrin of shady data brokers. You can check them out using the links in the description and in the pinned comment. We appreciate Aura for sponsoring the video. We'd also like to thank our channel sponsor, the Sonoran Desert Institute. If you ever wanted to get into gunsmithing and weapons technology and you really don't know where to get your start, maybe check out sdi.edu using the links down in the description and in the pinned comment. And with that, we are back to the video.
Yeah, so that sounds like... I've heard of Aura before. It sounds a little bit like Delete Me. And of course, his other sponsor for this video, which I believe is a regular sponsor of the video of all of his videos for some time now, Sonoran Desert Institute. If you guys are interested in gunsmithing, go check them out. And let's see what Brandon's going to tell us about why so much of this indictment is apparently bullshit.
The last week or so was probably the first time any of us have heard the name Carnicon in years, and unfortunately, it's for a shitty reason. Apparently Dugan, real name Jordan Derrick, was arrested by the feds on explosives charges. Specifically, he was charged with Jordan Derrick.
The Department of Justice announced Tuesday that Jordan Derrick, 40, is being charged with 3 counts related to explosives.
Was arrested by the feds on explosives charges. Specifically, he was charged...
Kansas City, Missouri, United States Attorney R. United States Attorney R. Matthew Price today announced the filing of a criminal complaint against Jordan Derrick, 40. The complaint charges Derrick with 1 count of engaging in the business of manufacturing explosive materials without a license, 1 count of unlawful possession of an unregistered destructive device, and 1 count of disturbing information relating to manufacturing explosives in violation of U.S. law.
Charged with engaging in the business of manufacturing explosives without a license, unlawfully possessing a destructive device, and distributing information on explosives, which that last, we'll get into it. I'm going to read directly from the complaint, as it's called. The complaint alleges that beginning no later than September 18, 2023, Derek began using several social media sites to distribute videos of himself making various explosive materials, to include detonators, bear with me on this one, nicolaminoguanidine perchlorate, ethylene glycol dinitrate, hexamethylene triperoxide diamine, hexamine dinitrate, Research Department explosive, or REX, silver acetyl... Guys, I'm not gonna get through these. SADS, TNX, or RSalt, TNT, PETN, or ANN. In his videos...
So all of these, I believe, are explosive compounds or accelerants of some kind. Obviously, I don't have a background in chemical engineering, so I couldn't tell you a whole lot about them, unfortunately. But I will say this reminds me a little bit of an old episode of Mythbusters where they were making something, I want to say it was thermite, or it might have been some other type of explosive. And Adam holds up the bottle, like to show the label. And of course it's blurred out. And he knew they would blur it out because they can't give the entire list of ingredients that they used, because they would have been teaching people how to make explosives. And yeah, the government really kind of frowns upon that. And I mean, I can kind of understand why. Like, owning firearms and ammunition is one thing. Explosives, that's a little harder to justify, in my opinion. But anyway, in the Mythbusters episode, Adam held up the bottle to show the label, and he knew it was that they were going to blur it out. And he goes, "This one contains blur, and this bottle contains more blur."
Derek provided step-by-step instructions on how to make these explosives. If he is found guilty on the charge of engaging in the business of manufacturing explosives without a license, he's facing up to 10 years in prison. If found guilty of the unlawful possession of a destructive device, that is another 10 years in prison. Totally, so far, 20 years. And if that sounds bad, don't worry, it's about to sound a lot worse. Reading again a little bit from the complaint, apparently Derek's videos were downloaded from his publicly available video sharing accounts and used by Shamsud Din Jabbar, the name of what is undoubtedly a promising young future doctor. Yeah,
absolutely a straight white American man with absolutely no terroristic proclivities, I am certain.
Individual who conducted an attack in
mild shock.
The individual who conducted an attack in New Orleans on January 1st, 2025. Jabbar had created IEDs consistent with Derek's instructional videos. The devices placed by Jabbar did not detonate and were subsequently rendered safe by law enforcement. So a radical Muslim turned to the internet and tried to figure out how to make explosives, which
I'm shocked. No, really? No, but the news keeps telling us that these people are they're immigrants. They're just trying to make a better life for themselves. They built America. Woosah. I'm sorry, folks. Yes, it is true. Immigrants did build America. Okay? When people say that, they are specifically talking about immigrants like the Japanese American Nisei of World War II. These Japanese Americans were second generation Japanese. Their parents immigrated from Japan, came here, started their family, and this was shortly after, oh good lord, I'm trying to remember the name of the executive order. I want to say it was 4066. That basically forced all Japanese Americans, after the bombing of Pearl Harbor, like, if you have a business, you have to sell your business. If you have a home, you have to sell your home, and you're going to come live in what basically amounted to concentration camps. Now, concentration camps, the idea of that, just taking everyone of Japanese descent and throwing them in a concentration camp, is absolutely awful. I think it was terrible. It was awful. The American government should not have done that. They did not deserve that, because they themselves, I mean, I'm not going to say all, because for sure I don't know whether or not all Japanese Americans at that time had absolutely nothing to do with Pearl Harbor. I'm sure there were probably some sympathizers, but by and large, most of them were as American as the rest of us who were born here in America. So much so, in fact, these guys actually ended up proving themselves. They did civilian work for the military first, and basically it was like, look, we want to do more to help with the war effort. And so they allowed them to join the military. They had military shrinks basically talk with them, and all the doctors are like, oh yeah, these guys absolutely want to contribute. They're not fooling around. They're serious. So then they started doing manual labor for the military specifically, and later, after they had really proven themselves, did they actually give them weapons. Now, they still treated them like second-class citizens, unfortunately. That should not have happened. These men were heroes. They, if you guys are familiar with the story of the Lost Battalion, the Japanese Nisei are the ones who saved the Lost Battalion. I want to say they were attached to the 442nd Army, and were part of a unit called the 1 Puka Puka. Speaking of, I believe Brandon's good friend Nick over at the Fat Electrician, I believe he has a video about those guys. Those guys are the immigrants who helped build America. They are the immigrants that make and did make America great. Those are the types of immigrants that we want coming into our country. We don't want the kind that come here, that take advantage of our social welfare programs, that manage to get themselves placed into some kind of political position and then change our country's culture. I don't want that. And I think most Americans, at least these days, considering how far the Overton window has shifted right, don't want that either. So, am I anti-immigrant in general? No. I'm against illegal immigration. And I want quality immigrants to come to our country. I think we need to be screening much more strictly the people that we give visas to, the people that we allow to immigrate and become American citizens. We need to be making sure that these people are coming into our country not to change our country, but to improve our country, to add to our country, to provide for our country. I believe it was, who was it? President Kennedy, who said, ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. And that's exactly what the Japanese Nisei did during World War II.
Personally find a little odd. That's something that I just assumed they just knew how to do. Like a baby sea turtle crawling toward the ocean after hatching. But yeah, he found these videos, made some failed explosives that thankfully didn't go off and killed no one. Even still, it's not great. It sounds pretty fucking bad, but this is where I'm going to begin to start firing back a bit on some of these charges, right? Half of those explosives I just listed earlier, I knew how to make, and depending on the statute of limitations in certain states, did make when I was a fucking teenager. I should not have made it to adulthood with all 10 fingers. When I was growing up, all that information was just publicly available online, probably still. I guarantee it still is. But I mean, they even had publications like Paladin Press, if you know, you know, and dozens of others that have been putting this information out for decades.
Yeah, not to mention I believe all this information was available in the Anarchist's Cookbook. Of course, the government watches for that sort of shit now.
Most of the information they're talking about here is like a Google search away. It's not like it's fucking state secrets or something. Hell, probably hundreds of thousands of active duty military, former military, law enforcement across the country have gone through training courses on how to do this very thing and make these explosives, whether it's for detection purposes or just a little bit of naughty war fighting. My point is, he's not violating OPSEC or like giving away nuclear codes or anything like that. This shit is available everywhere. And before YouTube hits me on this, most of the places where this information is available is via Google. You know, your parent company. Look no farther than your own reflection. But pivoting for a moment, let's turn our attention to another pivotal part of this. 2 pivots. Anyway, let's look at that first charge again. The full charge is, and I quote, engaging in the business of manufacturing explosive materials without a license. Because with licensing, this is a perfectly legal activity to do. But it's also incredibly important to bring up the fact that depending on certain state and local stipulations, it is perfectly legal to manufacture your own explosives. Below a certain amount, and depending on the yield, there's stipulations on it, but as long as you aren't engaged in the business, you don't need a license. Engage in the business meaning like you're not selling the explosives or selling your services or generally making money off of it. I mean,
So, in other words, it sounds like what he's saying is you can make explosives for your own personal use. If I'm understanding that correctly. You just can't sell it. You can't make money off of it. And you can't teach people how to make it. Even though, as he pointed out, this stuff has been publicly available for decades.
it's why Tannerite's legal and you can just buy it at Bass Pro or on the internet. They're not selling you an explosive. They're selling you ammonium nitrate and the other part. Look, I'm not trying to be next, okay? But the idea is you're not being sold a finished explosive. You have to mix it and manufacture it yourself. And I believe that's legal in a lot of places all the way up to like 50 pounds. Anything higher than that, and you're looking at federal explosives license, the whole ordeal. Now, what a man in a junker car does on his own property is between him and God. I'm just telling you the law. There's also regulations on like...
By the way, I just want to go back to that. That was a very famous clip from FPS Russia. Well, let me just go ahead and play the clip again real quick. Watch how close. Look at this. The door blew off and was less than 5 feet from him. Like, holy shit. So basically, from what he was saying in that video, I was trying to catch it before it actually blew up. Basically, what he was talking about was I guess they were struggling to find a good spot to place the tannerite, like in or near the vehicle where he could hit it, and so I want to say they placed it like on the mirror or somewhere near the mirror, and so that's what he was aiming for, and it blew the door clean off the truck, and this piece of debris damn near took him out. It was hilarious too. He played it super gangster, like he flinched for a second and then jumped right back into the video like nothing fucking happened. It was hilarious. But yeah, if you're playing around with tannerite or any sort of explosive that can be set off by the impact of a bullet, be very, very careful. Make sure you read all of the instructions on the packaging and follow them. When you're dealing with explosives, this is serious shit.
And a junker car does on his own property is between him and God. I'm just telling you the law. There's also regulations on like if and how you can store it, transport it, stuff like that. And this doesn't just apply to things like TNT and tannerite. It also can apply to things like black powder. Which leads me to another point which other folks like Mr. Guns and Gear have very accurately pointed out, is that these charges can apply to a large chunk of guys who are just reloading in their garage, who are technically violating large...
I'm sorry, I want to go back and look at that again.
Black powder. Which leads me to another point which other folks like Mr. Guns and Gear...
Is that... Oh, okay, looks like it's supposed to be like some kind of stool, like he's just got it sitting elevated. I thought he was using like bricks or blocks or something to hold it up. It looked weird. Okay, Mr. Guns and Gear. I've heard of him, but I haven't seen a lot of his content.
Here have very accurately pointed out is that these charges can apply to a large chunk of guys who are just reloading in their garage, who are
Right.
technically violating explosive storage laws and not even realizing it. They're thinking they're just engaging in a perfectly legal, constitutionally protected, cost-saving hobby. Now, should all of them go to prison for 10 fucking years? I don't want to take a radical stance or anything, but I'm going to say no. And
Fuck
a
no.
lot of you at home might be saying, well, Brandon, if he was making money on his YouTube channel, he could be engaged in the business, which is, I think, one of the things they tried to hit FPS Russia on back in the day. The idea that him as an unlicensed individual was using Tannerite in his videos, I think there was some charge like that. I don't honestly remember. That's where it gets interesting, though. As far as being engaged in the business, he didn't monetize his videos. He didn't run ads on YouTube. He didn't have any sponsors. The homie was just fed posting for love of the fucking game.
No bullshit, just cool shit.
Which, in a roundabout way, ended up being incredibly smart. Because since there's no revenue on the videos, he's not making any money, I have no idea how any prosecutor is going to get the charge of being engaged in the business to stick. Now, apparently the FBI had also made some claims that he had illegal...
Okay, just want to go ahead and read this real quick. At Dugan Ashley's bond hearing, one of the things the FBI lied about was that they couldn't find 2 NFA items registered to him. So they told the court he had transferred them to prohibited persons with no evidence. And the judge instructed that he remained detained. This is sounding like another one of these activist judges. Like they're going after GunTubers for I mean, he just said it. He just said that there's no way, they're going to be able to stick, and then on top of that, the FBI is straight up fucking lying about that they couldn't find 2 NFA items registered to him. So instead, they tried to make it sound like he transferred them to prohibited persons instead. What the fuck, Kash Patel? Come on, man. You're part of Trump's DOJ. Why are you letting this shit slide? Like, I can understand if the other part of it, where if he was actually disseminating, telling people, how to make explosives, that sort of thing. But why is the FBI being so dishonest about it? Like, I can understand another government agency, being dishonest with an adversarial country of ours or something like that. Say, for example, the CIA. I mean, that's kind of their entire business. But that's more about Homeland Security. This is them trying to stick it to a private citizen for what? Just because he disseminated information about making explosives? Yeah, that does sound a little hinky to me.
Legally transferred NFA items as well. But based on this tweet I was just sent, it looks like that ended up being a lie too. At Dugan Ashley's bond hearing, one of the things the FBI lied about. They couldn't find 2 NFA items registered to him, so they told the court, quote, he had them transferred to prohibited persons, which also is a fucking huge stretch. Let me just back that up. Doing an illegal transfer of an NFA item, like, that's one thing. Don't do it. But to a prohibited person means, like, to a felon or somebody who cannot possess firearms or at least an NFA item. That's a fucking wild claim just because they couldn't find it. So anyway,
Yeah, I did forget to mention that. I'm glad, Brandon brought it up. Prohibited persons just means, someone who is a felon, basically. Somebody who lost their right to keep and bear arms because some felonious act that they committed.
Told the court that he had transferred them to prohibited persons to make the judge hold him. One was found in plain sight today, which is a shotgun suppressor. So apparently the feds were trying to make it look like he was just hucking destructive devices or
At Dugan Ashley's bond hearing, one of the things the FBI oh, okay, did we read that already? Yeah, and the judge instructed that he remain detained. Okay, but this was a lie. One of those items was found in plain sight immediately at his residence, a shotgun suppressor that he never gave away.
Items or whatever to prohibited persons, to felons, just hucking them on the street. And it's being alleged that they were doing this intentionally to try to wrongly deny him bond, which, from what I've read, they did. Just a reminder, this is a guy who has not committed any violent crimes. They're not even accusing him of having committed any violent crimes.
Yeah, that's pretty fucking wild and sets a dangerous precedent. Yeah, I really hope he appeals this one, even if it's got to go all the way to the Supreme Court. I honestly, I feel like the Supreme Court would almost immediately dismiss this one, just based on the falsehoods so far. Duggan's bond was denied this morning in court, and he will spend the duration of the trial in federal custody. Jesus, that's fucked up. Among many reasons, some outright lies or at least omissions by the FBI, the closing reason by the female judge, that's a fucking red flag, was, quote, hate speech. What the fuck? Which is odd since that's not a legal category as far as I was aware. I got to sit in the courtroom with his wife and family during the process. The only words he spoke were, I love you, to his wife while being escorted out by U.S. Marshals. More to come. Holy shit. I've already said this in a couple of videos. These activist judges have got to be fucking stopped. They are a blight on our justice system. Them and the social justice warriors. Fuck those guys.
He's hurt no one, sitting in jail, as I record this video and as you watch it. Now, I will be the first to admit there might be more to this story that we don't know or that I don't know, and that might change things later on down the road. But from the information that I have that has been shared so far, to me, I see a man who has no criminal record, potentially fighting MS, was making non-monetized content as a hobby, committed 0 violent crimes, harmed nobody and nobody's property, unless you include like his own 2 liters and frozen turkeys, and is now facing over 20 years in.
Derek could, now he did touch on this a little bit earlier in the video, Derek could face a maximum of 20 years imprisonment if he is convicted of disturbing information pertaining to manufacturing explosives. If also convicted of illegally manufacturing explosives and possessing an unregistered explosive device, he could get up to 10 years in prison on each charge. Fuck, dude. This is disturbing to me. Like I said, just because of the FBI just straight up fucking lying and these dipshit activist judges. I'm sorry. We've got to do something about these activist judges. We really do. We really do. This could just as easily have been Brandon, as he pointed out himself. It could be any other GunTuber out there. This could happen to this guy. It could happen to, as I've already mentioned, Brandon himself. It could happen to Donut Operator, because he sometimes does range content. It could happen to Kentucky Ballistics, Scott, in other words. It could happen to any of them. It could happen to, oh, good Lord. It could happen to Administrative Results. It could happen to, potentially, I would even go as far as to say it could happen to Forgotten Weapons if he decides he wants, if Ian over there decides he wants to shoot an explosive target on one of his videos. Fuck, man. This is bleak shit.
Prison on charges that range from a little bit of a stretch to provably false. So now, in my opinion, the most important part of this entire video. I'm going to publicly call on the help of some very specific people to try to help Jordan Derrick. First, I'm going to ask Andrew Bailey, the former Attorney General for the state of Missouri and the current Deputy Director of the Federal Bureau of Investigation. I'd like to see if anybody that you know in the Missouri Attorney General's office would be able to help oversee this case, since I believe these charges originated from the Attorney General's office of Western Missouri. And if there's more to this story that I don't know, then so be it. But I want to make sure that one of our guys is overseeing this to make sure he's not just getting railroaded. Andrew, you're a big gun rights advocate, and you've been a huge champion for us in the past. Please help us out. Next, I would like to ask both Acting U.S. Attorney General Todd Blanche and Acting Director of the ATF, Rob Cicada, for help as well. As heads of the Department of Justice and the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, I feel like this falls pretty tightly under your purview. We were promised one of the most pro-2A administrations in American history. And don't get me wrong, I'm excited with a lot of the wins that we've gotten recently under the ATF and its new leadership. From loosening regulations to getting rid of some of the overbearing NFA restrictions. I hope we see a lot more of that, and I hope to be helping you from the legislative side in Congress soon. I'm asking you to please weigh in on this and make sure that a non-violent man doesn't get railroaded by the justice system on your watch. Now the real question. What is it that you all can do at home? Well, you can do what I just did and donate to his legal defense, which I will leave down in the description.
Doug and Ashley Defense Fund. Okay, Jordan Derrick, aka Doug and Ashley of Carnicon, has been arrested on what we believe are unfounded charges stemming from his publication of educational videos on energetic materials. I am his wife, Phoebe, and I have established this legal defense fund on his behalf. Jordan is categorically not guilty of these charges, which we believe constitute a violation of his First Amendment rights, among others. Any support you are able to provide would be deeply appreciated. All funds raised through this campaign are intended solely to cover Jordan's legal defense costs, including attorney fees, retainer costs, and any expenses associated with his defense through trial. I won't lie, guys. I wish I was someone of better means at the time. I would absolutely support this if I had the financial backing to do so. Unfortunately, I don't right now. But I will encourage you guys, if you guys see either the original video or my video here, I'm sure, I would assume Brandon probably has this linked in the description on his video. Go check that out. Let's support this guy and let's help get him free. This guy, to me, it sounds like they're just trying to railroad him, just as Brandon said. I have to agree with that.
But also, get the word out. Share
Yes.
this video or one like it. Fuck it. I don't care if you don't like me or you don't want to share my content. That's fine. Just share one that's like it. Just get the word out there. What really matters at the end of the day is that we get the word out about this situation and make sure it doesn't get swept under the rug. Do it
Yes.
for Duke. Anyhow, that's all I had for today. More fun content coming next week, but I just thought it was really important to sit down and tell you guys about this situation. This whole situation just kind of stinks to me. I don't like it, and hell, I hope down the road somebody would do this for me. That's it, guys. I appreciate it. I appreciate you. I'll see you all in the next one. Thanks.
Looks like he's got some outtakes here.
But yes, the feds have raided, or at least arrested, one of the OG GunTubers. Hexamine dinitrate, Research Department explosive, or RDX, silver acetylide. Like a baby sea turtle crawling toward the ocean after hatching. Which, in a roundabout way, ended up being incredibly smart, because there's no fuck. Breaking.
That was pretty funny. That was indeed very funny. All right, yeah, go over there and to Brandon's channel and check out his content. As always, I will make sure to provide a link to the video as well as a link to his channel. This might be the most important video that I've made so far, guys. Gun rights and our First Amendment rights are fundamental. I mean, there's obviously a reason why the founders decided to make them the First and Second Amendments. So yeah, this is just really important, guys. Get the word out. Let's do something about these activist judges. Let's do something about the government apparatuses, federal apparatuses, trying to come after people's First and Second Amendment rights. This is wrong. And with that, thank you guys so very much for watching. You know it means more to me than words can say. Please don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye!